Hello, I'm Bruce Harders, and this is Voices in the Village. Today we have David Deering with us, an inimitable person involved in all kinds of things, a resident of this village for 9 years. David, thanks for coming by and welcome to Voices in the Village.
Thanks for inviting me, Bruce.
Well, we were talking earlier about what can we talk about. You're involved in so many things. You're into photography, you're into traveling and motorcycles all over the world and theater and blah, blah, blah. But as it bubbled up, I saw Shakespeare in great big letters. So I think what we'll do today is talk about Shakespeare and then spend some other time, talking about the other 150 things you do out there. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So how did you get interested in Shakespeare? How did this all come about?
When I was a senior in high school, a long time ago, I had a teacher whose name was Mr. Marshall. I'll never forget him.
Mr. Marshall.
And we were reading Macbeth, and he tousled his hair and took off his tie and messed his coat up and did the drunken porter scene from Macbeth. Mm-hmm. And I said, "That's Shakespeare? Wow, I'm fascinated." And I've been interested, an avid reader and follower of Shakespeare ever since.
Well, you know, as I look back on high school and middle school, there always was somebody like that fellow you mentioned, some bigger-than-life person who knew everything about something or other. Well, then the worm turned a little bit, and you became a teacher, not just on the other end, but actually a teacher of Shakespeare.
I did, and I had the privilege of teaching Shakespeare to sometimes unwilling and unsuspecting students. But mostly my view of Shakespeare is that it needs to be seen, okay? You need to see it, you need to read it out loud. Sitting at home in your room reading Shakespeare can get a little tedious and very difficult to understand. Yeah. But to see it, it's just magic. And I made every effort to make sure that my students got to see it. In fact, I had the good fortune of teaching in London and worked in the theater there and did an exchange. And the people from London brought Shakespeare to my students. Oh. And I took some American plays like You Can't Take It With You, Little Shop of Horrors. So we did this theater exchange. Oh. So my kids got to see Shakespeare performed by Brits.
Now, and you taught high school students
yes.
in London?
Yes.
At one particular high school, one particular class?
Yes, yes.
So did you find it any different teaching English kids who kind of get Shakespeare drilled in their head every day in a sense than you did your own students back home?
To a degree, but students are students everywhere.
That's true.
And even though they were geographically closer to Shakespeare and closer in other ways, obviously, I still managed to get some ideas across to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we think of Shakespeare, it's just not the lines that we think about, is it? Look at all the other stuff that's related to Shakespearean stuff. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Shakespeare left no stage directions. Here's the characters drawn out, okay? Well drawn out characters, complex characters, multi-level characters, but he never put any stage directions in. Mm-hmm. And so producing Shakespeare lends itself to so many different interpretations. I was just watching Shakespeare Uncovered, and Morgan Freeman was Petruchio in Taming of the Shrew as a Wild West cowboy, all right? And I've seen Shakespeare done so many different ways, and it's all just right because his works are so adaptable. He understands people, he understands human condition, he understands love.
A universal man.
Exactly. Exactly.
And there have been a couple of movies made of Shakespearean dramas, and I've seen a few of them, and I thought every one of them was so beautifully done because they have all of the scenery, all of the outdoors, and everything with that.
And the elaborate costumes, elaborate Elizabethan costumes.
That's right. Now, you were the first person ever to take Shakespeare to Clubhouse 3 stage. Tell us about that.
Well, we started, the Old Pros started with Shakespeare 4 or 5 years ago now with an adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And then we've been doing plays on the patio and in a couple of the clubhouses ever since. Last year, in September, we did Macbeth. We thought, let's venture into the world of tragedy. And we did Macbeth on the patio at Clubhouse 1. And the actor said to me, maybe we could do this again. Maybe we could bring this to Clubhouse 3. I was in it, okay? I had the role of Macduff, who gets to kill Macbeth. Loved that part. And I said, let's do it. And they said, who's going to direct it? And all the fingers pointed to me.
I wonder why.
So I said, absolutely, let's do it. And we did it with great success. We had great crowds, appreciative crowds, and even some students from Edison High School came, which I thought was really very good. They said they had a new appreciation of Shakespeare.
Right. Well, I've seen some Shakespearean plays over the years, but my wife had never gone to a Shakespearean play. And she was totally in awe and excited about what she was watching. The whole venue, the costuming, the scenery, and everything. Her head was really spinning. And I would imagine that's how a lot of people would react that really never got into Shakespeare. They've heard the name Shakespeare, but they never read a play, they never went to a play, et cetera, et cetera.
And Shakespeare done in high school, maybe Romeo and Juliet in 9th or 10th grade, okay, and then maybe Macbeth. Maybe Hamlet, okay? But as I said earlier, these plays need to be seen, right?
Right. Well, now you're talking about doing something else on the patio, but in a very larger venue.
What we want to do is we want to involve a lot of people, because we have generated some interest in Shakespeare among the residents.
In playing in Shakespeare?
Yes, in not only playing Shakespeare, but reading some of his sonnets. He wrote 154 sonnets when the theaters were closed due to the plague. And we want to get people involved in Shakespeare, and maybe even some of the people who have come to see Shakespeare in the village would be interested in becoming involved. And we're so grateful that we have such a good turnout at our auditions. We're very happy about that. And Sheila Bialka has been directing lots, and we have a Shakespeare consultant, Gregory Sierra, who has worked Shakespeare, has done a lot of Shakespeare, not only on television, in the movies. So we're very grateful to have his input. So we're happy.
Have you set a date for that yet?
I think it's September 22nd and 23rd.
So there'll be ample information in the Globe.
In the Globe, yes, and there'll be flyers.
And how many people will you probably have involved in that?
I'd like to see 50.
50.
Yes, we haven't had that many yet, but 50 would be a good number.
Well, you know, the question everybody asks about Shakespeare is he relevant today?
Well, I would say he's probably as relevant or more relevant than he's ever been, all right? Many famous actors and actresses have taken on the roles of Shakespeare. Richard Burton, Meryl Streep, as I mentioned, Morgan Freeman, and these are all recent productions. There was a new Globe built where the old Globe used to be.
You mean in London?
In London, yes. I had the good fortune of taking students to that as part of my exchange experience. So Shakespeare is as relevant, at least as relevant, if not more relevant today.
That Globe Theater isn't the way we think of a theater today, wasn't it? All of the people were like, standing? A lot of people were standing on the ground watching it. How did those theaters work, do you think, for Shakespeare?
Well, first of all, we're surrounded by these wonderful theater lights. There were no lights in Shakespeare's time, of course. So all the plays were done in the afternoon. And there were 3 levels of attendees in the Shakespeare plays. There were the groundlings, okay, paid a penny, all right? And they stood. And then there was sort of the merchant class, which had seats. And then often royalty or people of the higher order had really good seats up in the balcony. Okay, and it was open. The theater was open, and if it rained, it rained.
Can you believe that we've almost made up all of our 10 minutes already?
My goodness.
We're going to have you back again. We haven't even scratched the surface with you.
We have not. We have not. And we're looking forward to doing Shakespeare again and bringing it to the residents.
Well, thanks for coming, David. And to you folks out there, come on back another time. This is Bruce Harders for Voices in the Village. Say, come on, you all.